All right, we are going to begin this interview. All right, what is your name?
My name is Annie Harris.
All right, and where are you from?
Well, you mean where was I born?
Yes.
I was born in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Okay, and where did you do business?
Well, several years later, I was in New York, in Manhattan, in the city, and I worked for Bloomingdale's,
Okay.
New York.
And what did you do in Bloomingdale's?
I was a buyer.
Okay, and all right, so we're gonna get started. So, what did you do as a buyer?
Well, I first started out in the buyer's training program, which is why I went to New York.
Again, what did that program look like?
Well, it was a training program, so you could become a buyer eventually, and that's what I did. And I moved up pretty quickly, and I ended up being a buyer.
All right. All right, and then so, how would you describe Bloomingdale's? Like, what is the work situation? What is the environment of Bloomingdale's?
Well, the environment in the store of Bloomingdale's in New York is very high energy because it's right in the middle of the Upper East Side, which is a great part of the city, and people from all over the world come to Bloomingdale's, and so it's just a completely different feel from like a department store here in Dallas or somewhere like that. But so the buying offices weren't in the store. They were a little further up the street, or actually down the street from the store. But we would be in the store, and then we'd walk, or we'd be in the office, and then we'd walk over to the store and see how things were going and see how things were selling. And
All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then, so what would you say is the biggest challenge you face as a buyer in Bloomingdale's?
Well, probably the biggest challenge you face is that, Bloomingdale's, at that time, we had probably, I can't even remember, but it's probably maybe 20 stores, maybe not even that much. So our job as buyers was we'd have to buy certain clothing to put in all the stores. So when you go into a store and you see all that clothing, people that are buyers buy the clothing, and there's all different kinds of departments. Okay. So like they have the men's department, the women's department, and
so what would you do after you bought the clothing? Like, what is the definition of a buyer? Like,
the definition of a buyer is, I guess, you analyze the sales of certain items, and I guess you have to buy the items first. So if you're a really good buyer, you know what the trends are, and so you buy what's trending, or what's really hot at the time. And then you have to figure out how many of each size to buy, and how many of each size and each color of every little item you buy goes into every store. So you have your top stores, like your A stores, your B stores, and your C stores. So like, and it depends on where the region they're in too. Like you could buy different things for the Northeast than you would buy for the South or for the West Coast or something. But I guess the hardest job is making sure you buy enough merchandise, and then you want to sell your merchandise before you have to mark it down, because you want to get the highest sales you can.
Mm-hmm. So it's like what you were buying depended on the fashion of like what everybody was wearing and everything.
Yeah.
So what was like the fashion back then, like when you worked?
Let's see. Gosh. Well, it was the 90s.
It's like bell-bottom jeans?
No, that was the 70s and the 60s. But let's see. Well, there was a lot going on back then, I guess, but I bought what was called bridge designs. So they have the top designers in the stores, like Chanel and all the big designers, and that's called couture. Mm-hmm. And then the next step down at the time was called bridge design. So that's like the bridge between designer clothes, but then really high-end designer clothes. So I bought bridge designs, and the department was called Bloomingdale's Now. And so I bought designer lines like Adrian Vittadini, Ellen Tracy, Calvin Klein, DKNY, or Donna Karan, New York. And I don't know how to explain what the styles were then, but just it was high fashion, you know.
Mhm. All right, so so like how long did you work there?
Well, at the time it seemed like a super long time, but it was 5 years. Yeah,
So
5 years.
what
I
prompted
was a
you to
buyer.
leave?
Dad.
Oh, okay. So
Dad.
did you enjoy your time at Bloomingdale's?
I loved every minute of it. I did. I loved it, and I probably.
Would you not have left if it wasn't for that? Would you have kept working?
Yes, but I did keep working, and after New York, and I moved back down here to Dallas, I was also a buyer at JCPenney headquarters up in Plano at the time. And so the difference between Bloomingdale's and Penny's was, the first and foremost thing was there was really no high fashion at JCPenney at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bloomie's was the high fashions. So we had maybe 20 stores, but at Penny's we had 2,400 stores. So in New York, we would go to the market in New York, and the market in New York is a place called, it's like 7th Avenue, and that's where all the fashion designers have all their clothing lines. So you go to market, and they're all in different buildings, and I can't remember the addresses anymore, but there's certain addresses you just know are the buildings you're going to. And you go in, you see the clothes you like, and you buy them, and physically go in and look at the clothes, and then you buy them for the stores. Well, at Penny's, there were so many stores that what we used to do, instead of do it that way, was that we would broadcast like on TV, like real TV. We had a TV studio, and we would broadcast live. So Mom sat at a desk, like a news desk.
Oh yeah, she did report?
Yes.
Like, oh, I did not know
But we
that.
were reporting on the clothes. So we were saying, hello, this is Annie Harris from whatever department I was buying. And then we would have the clothes behind us. We'd point out the great things about the clothes, and we would suggest to the people in the stores how much they should buy. So really, they chose what to buy for their stores, but we dictated the fashion. Like, this is what it is, and this is what we suggest. But so they ran their stores so they could tell if they needed to reorder something, if it was selling really well or not. So that's how we did it at Penny's, and that was super fun. I mean, and then so I moved back from New York, and then I flew to New York all the time from Dallas to go to the markets in New York. So it was kind of fun because I still got to go to New York, and then I would still see all my friends and people in the fashion industry, and it was fun.
So did you enjoy working at Bloomingdale's or JCPenney more?
Well, I enjoyed the fashion better at Bloomingdale's, but the experience at JCPenney was amazing too. It was just a completely different thing, and the people were amazing, and I learned a lot, and unfortunately they haven't been doing very well. And Mom was one of the first people that they brought in from the outside, because at JCPenney they would only hire people that started with them and moved up through the ranks or whatever. And so their sales weren't doing very well, so they were trying to change the image of Penny's back then and trying to make it more upscale, but it just really didn't work. But at the time they brought me in, they were trying to bring in outside influences and people like that could influence their offices and maybe turn things around. And we did for a while, but now the headquarters isn't there anymore up on Legacy
Well,
anymore.
because they brought in so many different people, would you say it was culturally diverse, or was it mainly like predominantly white, or how would you explain that?
Oh, it was super culturally diverse, even at Bloomingdale's.
Did that like affect the environment in which you worked, or did you everybody get along pretty well?
Well, you know, everybody got along really well. I mean, there's probably people that you just don't
Yeah.
get along with, but for the most part, yeah, everybody got along.
Were there things that you had to get adjusted to, like if somebody's beliefs, you had to respect that, or was it just like?
Well, I guess so. So, you know, coming from Texas, I was coming from Dallas,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of what I learned about was there's a lot of Jewish people in New York, and so I learned all about the Jewish people and their beliefs, and got to, I mean, so many friends that were Jewish, and yeah, you just kind of love to hear about everybody's different culture, and New York in the city is a melting pot.
Mhm.
It's just people from all, I mean, you know, you have Chinatown and Greek town and all kinds of things, Little Italy. It's probably one of the most diverse places in the world. And then same with Bloomingdale's, the customers were, and the people that worked there. So,
Alright.
and everyone was great, fine.
All right, so the next thing I wanted to ask you is about ethics. Was there like a code of conduct or a code of ethics that you had to follow and keep in mind when you worked there?
Absolutely.
Do you remember what those were?
No.
Do you remember what it looked like, or
the code
it doesn't
of,
have to be specific, but
you mean what it entailed?
like what they told you, like ethically wise.
Well, I guess when you're in a department store, even though I wasn't in the store, I was at one point.
Mhm.
But I mean, you know, the customer's always first.
Yeah.
The customer comes first, and you know, and that's really like customer service, and the customer is number one inside the store, in the actual store.
Mhm.
But ethics is, you know, just your basic ethics, you know.
So when companies have the customer first, was there any situation you ran into with like somebody that was just like super rude, but you had to put them first even though they were in the wrong?
Oh yeah.
Do you remember any of those situations?
Oh my gosh. Well, we used to laugh about it a lot, but I've had to handle several situations like that, and it was fine. You know, it was good, and you just have to kind of you really just have to divert the customer's attention when they're mad like that and angry. And so I had several situations like that, and then I had to teach people below me how to handle situations like that also. So yes.
So I would imagine there was no really things to do with product safety, but because it was just mainly clothes, but was there anything involved with that, like safety or like any liability of the company?
Oh, for sure. Not necessarily at Bloomingdale's so much, but at JCPenney, we did a lot of we had our own brands.
Mhm.
So at Bloomingdale's, we bought everything that other people made. So they were the wholesalers and we were the retailers. But at JCPenney, we made our own brands, and we designed our own clothes, and we designed the products and all that. So we had a quality control, QC.
Mhm.
And a lot of things had to go through quality control to make sure that, you know, say for instance, like pajamas for children, flame retardant pajamas,
Mhm.
meaning that, I mean, they can still catch
Yeah.
fire. But
so it's like that kind of competes with the fairness and honesty of it, right? Because that could be like false advertising.
oh, absolutely, yes.
Was there any big court cases of that?
Not that I know of, that I remember. And we had a big legal department, but I didn't really hear of anything that went on at the time. But we were very big on quality control.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's a huge, big thing at JCPenney, but not at Bloomingdale's.
Okay. So how was the competitive scene at Bloomingdale's? Like, who did you mainly compete with, and like in the market and everything?
Oh, we competed with at the time. So in New York, it's a little different, but we competed with Macy's, Saks Fifth Avenue, Henry Bendel, and who's the other one? Barney's, New York,
Mm-hmm.
and Neiman Marcus in Dallas,
Of course,
Neiman's, and not really Nordstrom. So really the top big department stores like that.
Were you all at the top?
Of course.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure.
Absolutely.
So you said you talked about the broadcasting and you would report about the clothes, but was there any other technology that was important, like finding clothes, or did you just walk into stores and see clothes that you liked and buy them and bought them?
Well, you're so cute. So, well, so this I didn't go into the stores and buy them because I'm the one who bought the clothes that went into the stores.
Yeah, okay.
So what we would do was we would go to, see, we were the retail side of it. So if you're a buyer, you're buying clothes and you're buying them from the wholesaler. So they're selling you something, say, for $50. Then we buy it from them for $50 and then we mark it up to maybe, say, $100. So there's a markup in there. So when we put it out on the floors, is what we used to say, when the clothes would go out on the floor, then we would make a $50 profit from what we bought it at. So that is the biggest thing, is to make a profit. So when you start marking things down and then it gets below what you bought it for, you start to lose money. So we would go to the market, and in Dallas there's a whole big market center. Have you been there?
No.
Okay, so it's just huge building, and there's all kinds of booths or little stores, and you go in and they show you what they have for that season and you buy it, and you're always ahead of season. So right now it's getting ready to be winter, but I would, as a buyer, we would be buying for spring right now. So because
you always got to go in advance. Okay.
So it's in.
Is that how you stay like ahead of your competitors? Is it like
Yes.
gaining the edge over them?
Well, yes, and also taking risks and things and knowing what's going to be a good big seller and what's not. And
have you ever taken a big risk and it just backfired? It just failed completely, like about a clothesline or something?
not at work.
Really? You hit it big every time?
Well, I didn't have any catastrophes, that's for sure, like big losses, but I mean, as a company, we could have losses for sure. And another thing you have to watch out for is shortage. So that's when your inventory list says you have 10 things of an item, and you go out to count them and there's only 8 there. That means 2 are gone and they're not accounted for. So that means someone could have stole them. And actually that's what it always means, pretty much, is somebody stole 2 things. So you have to, the security team has to watch out for people trying to steal things, and then you have to make sure that you have all your things accounted for. The shortage can ruin your sales.
All right, well, so were there any big trademarks or patents or anything like that, or copyrights that happened? Or what was y'all's main trademark, if y'all had any, like a logo or?
The logo for sure, and then we had the big brown bag. It's still the big brown bag, and it's a kind of a round B, and so that was our logo. And when I first moved to New York, a single man owned Bloomingdale's, and then we sold it. We got sold to Federated, and that's who owned Macy's and a couple
Macy's owns Bloomingdale's, right?
They're not.
Or they?
I can't remember now, but Macy's was owned at the time by Federated, and then Federated ended up buying was sold to Federated. So then we were under Federated, and things changed a lot during that time because it was a lot more upscale when I was first there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to conclude this interview, would you, if you had the chance to go back, would you? go back and do that job? If they called you right now, they asked for you to come back and be a buyer, would you take the job?
You mean as who I am today with my children here, and then me leaving to go there?
Like if we could move to New York too.
No.
No?
I don't think so.
Why?
Well, I'm just a lot older, and it's I was there when I was super young. So, but maybe it depends on what the job was. But if I was younger, would I do it again? Sure, absolutely. It was fun.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me for this interview.
You're welcome. Thank you for interviewing me.